So the film kicks off on a planet called Yatsa. Every alien living there is also called a Yatsa, and they only really care about one thing: how strong you are and how good you are at fighting. The Yatsa who has the best fighting skills and powers gets all the respect. But the weaker Yatsas aren't even allowed to live here. As soon as they figure out a Yatsa is weak, they straight up kill them. We meet one such Yatsa named Dek. The minute he walks into his house, which is made of mountains, his brother starts fighting him with his sword. That's because he loves Dek a lot and doesn't want anyone to kill him. So he wants to make Dek powerful. That's why he's making him practice fighting. They fight for a good long while, but Dek just can't win a single fight. His brother tells him to practice more, but Dek says, "I don't think I need to. I'm pretty strong already, but you guys and Dad just can't see it. I'm going to prove myself to this whole universe. I'll definitely hunt and bring back the most powerful thing in the entire universe and make Dad famous across the whole planet." His brother tells him that the Calisk monster is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's totally impossible to kill or capture it. Are you going to bring it back? Dek immediately accepts the challenge. His brother even tells him even Dad couldn't pull that off. Right in the middle of this chat, Dek's dad walks in. The moment he sees Dek, his anger goes through the roof and he tells his other son, "Kill him right now. He's just a stain on my name." Dek tries to explain, "Dad, it's not like that. One day I'll bring back a huge kill for you and make your name shine." Dek's dad gives him a sarcastic look and says, "You?" His anger gets even worse from Dek saying stuff like that, and he ties Dek up with his laser ropes. He tells Dek's brother again, "Kill Dek." Dek's brother has no other choice. Listening to his dad, he picks up his laser sword, but instead of killing Dek, he cuts Dek's ropes. With the help of his brother, the spaceship automatically pulls Dek's inside and lock him inside. Dek's dad gets so mad at his brother that he chops off one of his hands. With his other hand, Dek's brother tries to help Dek again. He uses the spaceship's remote control he was holding to launch Dek's spaceship music toward Gina planet, where Dek was supposed to find the Calisk monster. So deep down, he believed in his brother too. Dek knew Dad would do something awful to his brother, but he didn't expect that awful. Dek's dad, in his fury, kills Dek's brother and Dek is shattered. The scene cuts, and the next one shows us that Dek has reached Gina planet. The moment he enters the planet, the pressure increases so much that all his spaceship windows shatter. To save himself, Dek jumps into a capsule, and he crash lands in the Gina jungles. Since Dek was a Yatsa, he thought he was super strong. They always had all sorts of weapons for fighting, which Dek had hidden all over his suit. But he hadn't expected Gina planet to be way more dangerous than he imagined, and that even the plants here were monsters. The plants attack him and rip all the weapons out of his suit. Then, the plant's huge vines attack Dek. Dek barely manages to cut these vines with a laser sword on his hand and keeps moving forward. Lots of plants attack him on the way. But after cutting all the vines, Dek finally manages to get out of the jungle. By this time, Dek was badly wounded. First, he sat down and bandaged himself up, and then he decided to move on. He didn't even know which way to go to find Calisk yet. Moving forward, he runs into lots of flowers that open their mouths to hurt him as soon as he gets close. Dek realized he'd have to be very careful with every step on this planet. Just then, he spots a girl hanging from a tree a few steps away. Her name is Thea. Thea calls Dek over and says, "You don't look like you're from around here. What did you come here for?" Dek tells Thea that he came from Yatsa planet, that he's a Yatsa, and that he's here to hunt the Calisk monster to prove to his Yatsa planet that he's the strongest. Thea says, "I don't think you realize how dangerous this planet is, and the jungle you're standing in right now is the most dangerous spot on this planet. I don't think you'll be able to move forward or survive. If you want, I can help you because I know this place really well." But Dek says, "Nah, I don't need it." She says, "Think about it. I also know the way to Calisk." Hearing this, Dek agrees and takes the girl down from the tree. That's when he finds out she wasn't a human. She was a synthetic, a combo of human and machine. Dek slings her on his back and starts his journey. Thea was just telling Dek her story about being stuck there for the last 2 years when suddenly a flying dragon attacks Dek and knocks him out. Thea uses her hands to fight off and chase away the dragon. Then she brings Dek back to consciousness and says, "Now do you believe you can't go on without me?" Dek kept Thea on his back now. As they walked, they had to cross a river full of dangerous, bloodthirsty fish that would eat them. But Thea knew how to mentally control all these fish, and because of that, they safely crossed the river. After crossing the river, they reached a slightly safer jungle. For his ease, Dek took vines from here and used them to tie Thea to himself, and after traveling a long way, they decide to rest for the night.
Thea tells Dek about herself.
But humans from planet Earth sent her here to research this planet. They also had the mission to hunt the Calisk monster. She explains that humans are too weak, they couldn't survive here. So humans created synthetics like us, creatures that are a mix of human and machine. I came here with my sister, Tisa. But as soon as we got here, the Calisk monster attacked our spaceship. I lost my legs in that attack, and my sister and I got separated. It's been 2 years since then. I've been hanging right there. The scene cuts, and now we see Thea's sister, Tisa, who is currently inside her spaceship. She had repaired her spaceship quite a bit, and was sitting in one of the ship's chambers where lots of robotic hands were repairing Tisa. And here we also find out that Tisa immediately wanted to find Thea. She was very worried about her. Anyway, morning breaks, and we see Dek and Thea again, who are now heading towards Calisk's hideout. But on the way, they had to pass through fields where the plants were very thorny. And inside these fields, music were huge monsters too. Thea tells Dek they need to avoid these monsters because they are Calisk's guards, and when needed, Calisk even hunts them down. They were still talking when a small, monkey-like creature showed up. Jumping around, it tells Dek, "If you want, I can help you music cross this area." But Dek didn't want anyone else's help now. They were talking when suddenly that big Calisk guard came to attack them. Before it could swallow all 3 of them, Dek quickly used his laser sword to cut the monster in half. Before they could run, another monster with large tentacles grabs both of them with its tentacles and lifts them up. Before this creature could eat them, the first baby creature cuts the creature's tentacle, saving both of their lives. The angry creature now grabs the baby creature instead, and before it could eat it, Dek shows bravery again and makes a big jump, breaking a tree that the creature had its tentacle wrapped around. The tree falls on the creature, and Dek jumps over from the other side, attacking the creature's eye and killing it. And just like that, all 3 of them are finally safe. Now, the 3 of them decide to walk together. On the other side, we see Tisa, who had now gone into the jungle to find her sister Thea, and had reached the spot where Dek crash-landed. She finds out all the information about the spaceship, that it came from Yatsa planet, and that a Yatsa is here. Connecting the dots, she realizes that her sister is with that Yatsa. The scene cuts, and we see the trio again, who have now lit a fire to spend the night. Dek and the baby creature needed to eat something, so they both hunt for themselves. But Thea explains, "I'm a synthetic, so I don't get hungry." After this, Thea asks Dek about himself. Dek says, "My dad was going to kill me, but I wanted to prove myself, and my brother helped me. He put me in the spaceship and launched it towards Gina planet, but then I saw that my dad had killed my brother. Now, no matter what, I want to catch that monster to get revenge for my brother and prove to my dad that my brother and I were not wrong." We see Tisa again, who is still inside Dek's spaceship.
She looks at Dek's weapon that can turn anything into eyes.
She takes all the weapons with her, including that one. Morning comes, and we see that they have started their journey again. As they were walking, they reached a place where everything was destroyed. Thea explains that this used to be their base, which Calisk and his people destroyed. Thea also finds her legs in this base, and she takes her legs and goes into the lab to attach them to herself. Here, she apologizes to Dek and says, "I just wanted to get to my legs, so I used you. I don't know anything about Calisk myself, nor can I help you reach him." Hearing this, Dek gets furious. How could Thea deceive him? In response, Thea turns the tables and says, "Calisk is too dangerous anyway, and I've seen all your skills. You won't be able to fight him. Trust me, and go back to your planet." Hearing her words, Dek tells her, "Just wait and see. I'll definitely show you the consequence of your betrayal." He says this and goes outside, only to find a huge creature standing in front of him. This was actually the creature, Calisk, they came here for. Its mouth was so terrifying, about half the size of Dek's body when it opened. It attacks Dek. Before it could, Dek attacks it with his laser sword, passing underneath it and cutting it. But none of this had any effect, no use. Calisk had the power to heal itself. All the attacks Dek made, Calisk healed himself from them in less than a second. In anger, Dek even separates its tail from its body, and then quickly attacks its neck, separating its head from its body. But Calisk reconnects his tail and his head to his body at the same time. He was immortal. He wasn't going to die. Finally, when Dek tries to capture Calisk with a chain, Calisk overpowers him instead. He could have killed him now, but something very strange happened. He smelled Dek and let him go. Dek was also surprised that Calisk let him go. Tisa was also surprised how Calisk could spare Dek's life, even though he was in his grasp at that moment. She knew Calisk would come to attack them now. So using the weapon Tisa brought from Deck's spaceship, she turns both of them into ice and captures them by freezing them. After bringing them to the lab, Tisa starts experimenting on Deck as well as Calisk so she can learn more about them. Because of all this, she sidelines her own sister Thea, and Thea can't attach her body parts. For this reason, Thea was now upset with Tisa, and Deck was already upset with Thea. He says, "Music, you betrayed me, and because of you, I'm stuck here today." Only Tisa was happy here, saying Mom will be so happy when she finds out I captured both of you. She was referring to the scientist who created Tisa and Thea as Mom. At this moment, Thea tells Tisa, "Our purpose for coming here was only to capture Calisk. Why did we capture Deck? Let him go. He saved my life, and he's the one who brought me here." Tisa wasn't listening to anything Thea said at this time and was completely engrossed in her work. After taking Deck's blood samples, Tisa goes to test them, and Tisa's robot comes here to keep an eye on them. Thea distracts the robot with her words and uses it to free Deck. It turns out that Tisa, Music, had also launched this spaceship to go to Earth, and she had also informed Earth that she was bringing 2 aliens. But since Deck had now escaped, he opens the spaceship door and jumps out.
Deck jumps and falls straight into a waterfall below, while Tessa just watches him go from above. Later, Deck climbs out of the water and somehow makes it to his spaceship. After a lot of work, he repairs the ship and patches up his wounds. Now, Deck starts thinking about saving Thea. But since Tessa took all his gear, Deck starts crafting new weapons using stuff from the planet. First, he grabs some thorny grass. Then, he pulls the tusks from that elephant-like creature he hunted earlier. After that, he gathers some dangerous water-dwelling creatures, along with prickly plants and exploding bugs. Deck then heads toward the lab where Thea's legs were kept. That's when he spots the bird sitting sadly near Calisk's footprints. Deck realizes that what everyone thought was a monkey was actually Calisk's baby. The night before, the baby was with Deck, which is why his scent was all over him, and why Calisk didn't kill him when she had the chance. Just like the baby spit on Deck to make friends, Deck spits back to bond with him. Deck enters the lab and activates Thea's legs. They immediately start moving toward her location. Deck and Bud, the baby, follow the legs right to the enemy base. As soon as they break in, Deck attacks the synthetic robots. Using his DIY weapons, he takes them out one by one. Bud helps out too, and we see that he's just as powerful as his mother. Thea's legs finally reach her, but 2 robots spot them. Luckily, the legs are now within her control range, and she uses them to take down both robots before finally reattaching them to her body. Deck arrives, and Thea is touched that he came back for her. But Tisa finds out that Deck has escaped, so she decides to come back to capture him again. And this time, she tells her army of robots that if Deck tries anything like this again, they should kill him. We'll get a reward for taking his dead body to Earth, too. After this, she was ready to fight her sister Tisa, too. Deck tells her they need to rescue Calisk now. Thea is shocked and asks if he still wants to kill the creature. Deck explains he doesn't want to kill her anymore. He tells her the monkey is actually Calisk's baby. He says they have to get Calisk out alive for the kid's sake. Thea agrees. Outside, Tessa is getting ready to take Calisk to Earth, but Deck intentionally sets off the emergency alarm. The robots go on high alert. Tessa knows this is Deck's move and goes to prepare something. The robots find Deck sitting alone and rush him, but it's a trap. The hidden bugs explode one after another, wiping out the robots. Before he could kill everyone, Tisa confronts him, sitting inside the big robot, and tries to kill Deck repeatedly with her huge chainsaw-like hand. Deck was trying every way to fight it and escape, but was failing. Just then, we see Thea, who now uses her sister's lens to open the chamber where she had tied up Calisk. She freed this creature just to save Deck's life. Calisk was also mad with rage from being imprisoned. As soon as it comes out, it hits this robot with just one blow, and the robot gets heavily damaged. Then, it breaks the top chamber of the robot, pulls Tisa out and swallows her. Finally, they thought they had won this fight. They take a sigh of relief, and Deck brings Calisk's son to him. Calisk is overjoyed to meet him, and he had been looking for his son for a long time. Deck also shows affection to Calisk's face, and Calisk also meets Thea with a lot of love. And we find out that Calisk is merciful as well as very powerful. Their meeting was still going on when suddenly Calisk froze. And this was done by Tisa, who was still alive inside Calisk's body and had Deck's weapon that could freeze anything. Using that, she froze Calisk. After this, Tisa breaks the ice monster and climbs out of it. As soon as she gets out, she takes aim at her sister Thea, intending to kill her. And then, Deck makes the next attack, separating her neck from her body and finally killing her.
Dek had no reason to stay here now because Calisk had died. So he takes Thea and the little monster and leaves for his planet Yatsa. As soon as he appears before his dad is still angry to see him and says, "Get out of here. Why do you even come here?" Hearing this, Dek says, "Today, I've come to make you proud. Just look who I brought. I hunted 2 aliens. Now you have to let me join the tribe." Dek's dad didn't believe a word he said, so he sends 2 of his Yatsas to kill Dek. But after all the difficulties Dek had faced and all the big monsters he had fought, fighting these 2 Yatsas' music was no big deal for him. He fights both of them at the same time and easily defeats them. But even then, his dad shows him no mercy and comes forward to fight him himself. The dad is filled with the fire of anger and hatred, and Dek fights his dad, defeats him and kills him too. Before this, his dad was the chief of their tribe. But since Dek killed him and Dek's brother was already dead, Dek became the chief now, and everyone started respecting Dek because he had brought 2 aliens. Just then, we are shown that another alien ship is rapidly approaching their planet. Everyone is confused about who is coming in it. So Dek tells everyone, "My mum is coming in it." Whether Dek was referring to Calisk as his mum or someone else. With this mystery, this alien movie ends.